All right, Camden, my man, welcome to the show. How we doing tonight?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Oh man, we're doing good, man. It's always good to talk to Tennessee baseball players. Me and you were just talking for the episode. Y'all are legit, y'all real dudes. I think, man, y'all are fun to watch, and y'all all got great character. I mean, y'all are product of the Tony Vitello system. I mean, what's not to like? And so with that, man, I want to ask you before we get into your story, before we talk baseball, thinking about Tony V and the pictures that Drew Beam was posting this weekend. Let's talk about Tennessee football in this past weekend with game day. Were you at the game?
I was. Yeah, that was electric to say the
Were,
least.
were you? I was trying to figure out. Were you in any of those pictures with the Tony V
no,
picture?
no,
Uh,
unfortunately, I wasn't.
oh man, you didn't want to get famous with the rest of them.
Right. I should have took that chance of getting in the post.
I did not know. See, I saw when Drew posted that he was looking for somebody to make a sign, that he was going to make one, and I was hoping he'd actually make the one with Evan Russell wearing the Florida Gators helmet as a sign.
That-
Um, but I did not expect the Tony V, underwear ad type deal like that. That's legit, and the fact that y'all's coach loves it, like
right.
that's
Right.
what
Yeah,
makes
I
it
didn't
great.
expect that either. I was expecting the Florida helmets also. So when I saw that, I was a little shocked, and I was like, huh, "That's a little better."
Man, it's just fun with the Tennessee Florida rivalry and with y'all sweeping them in baseball, with y'all beating them in football, with y'all beating them in basketball, when they see championship. It's just fun times in Tennessee right now because if you don't win a championship, the next best thing is always making sure you dominate Florida. So like,
right. Right.
but yeah, the college game day atmosphere is electric. I'm glad you got to at least be out there. Next time, make yourself seen though, man. You gotta let people know you're there.
Right. I need to. I need to do a better job with that.
It's all right. Drew took enough spotlight for everybody, but let's get into it, man. Camden, where are you from?
I'm from Cleveland, Tennessee.
And that's on the east side, right?
Yeah, it's like 20 minutes outside of Chattanooga.
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah. So up there towards the mountains. So as far as growing up, man, tell me about the family dynamics. You got siblings. What's it look like?
Yeah, I got two brothers and a sister, and I'm the third. I'm the second youngest of the four.
I got you. And so when we got a lot of siblings, the thing we like to ask is, are they athletes and was it competitive around the house?
Yeah, my brothers didn't play past high school, but it was always competitive around the house 24/7, leading into even video games, and you know how it gets with anything you do, even ping pong, everything is competitive. So there was a lot of fights, but also a lot of memories made along the way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, my sister's 9 years older than me, so luckily I didn't have to fight as much. I just annoyed the hell out of her, and then later on in life, she ended up being like, my best friend because she was so much older, and she always made sure to keep me out of trouble. So I didn't have to deal with that as much. And as from a competitive standpoint, I was the athlete, so me and her didn't go back and forth. But with that, like, were you the clear cut best athlete in the family? What's up?
uh, they might not like my answer, but I'd have to say so.
It's no, it's the only answer. Look, when we have folks come on here and they're like, "Oh, my sister or my dad or my brother," it's like, no, like my favorite was always Cameron James. He was so blunt and direct. He said me, and his whole family is athletes, college, professional, everything. But no, it was him. So yeah, you
Right.
as
Yeah.
the
My dad's actually in the Hall of Fame for baseball at Tennessee Wesleyan, so I got a little ways to go to meet that milestone. But I'll talk to him a little bit right now.
so yeah, so he might be the one that might have a beef for real with you saying that. So
Exactly.
So with that, with him having that background, when do you start baseball? And is it one of those things that you wanted to do on your own because you wanted to be like dad, or is it one of them things that dad kind of got you into?
Yeah, I would say a little bit of both. I hear stories all the time of like some kids like to play with Legos or different things like that. And my thing was just always like my first word apparently was ball. And I just always had a bat or a ball, some type of ball in my hand, throwing it, swinging a bat, anything like that. So I think it started at a young age and just kind of developed through his passion of the game. And I just kind of followed his footsteps. And he was my coach all the way basically until high school.
Really? Yeah. It's unique because my son it's different. He's a fan. He actually doesn't like to play, but he loves to go. As a matter of fact, I didn't tell you this beforehand because I wanted to tell you on the episode. He's actually got an autograph ball from you from the Shriners Classic in Minute Maid Park. So like
Awesome.
he goes to all the games with me. He loves to watch, but he don't want to play, man. And so it's the weirdest thing. But hey, I got somebody to hang out with me, watch the game. So, I mean, it could be worse, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, growing up, you talk about, your dad, working with you and everything. I see you play travel ball. You had a lot of success, a lot of tournament teams, a lot of, perfect game accolades. Just talk to me about travel ball and how it helps you get that competitive edge, develop as a pitcher, all that.
Yeah, so travel ball for me was kind of like I think it was like more valuable to me just because you're playing against the best talent across the country rather than high school ball, for example. My area, to say the least, wasn't that good at baseball, so it wasn't as much to prove versus playing against the best players in the country. So I always thrived off the competition of playing against the best and traveling and doing all that aspect. And travel ball also kind of prepares you for college with traveling and stuff because you're not just a homebody all the time.
Yeah, no, I mean, there aren't just really too many areas where school ball is, like for instance, in my area, you're probably familiar, DeSoto Central's where Austin Riley, Cameron James, all of them came from. I go to their games, they beat, the local teams 20-0. Like you're not getting anything
No,
there. So
no.
so you got to play travel and they all go play for whatever team across the country. So yeah, that's where you develop. And so with that, man, what was it like getting that experience? Just getting to travel around. You said you played. Is there anybody like noteworthy that like you remember facing against?
Oof. Trying to I remember pitching. This was, I think, either my junior or senior year in high school in travel ball. And I remember just pitching. I was pitching in relief in a game against Kumar's team.
Hmm.
And that was when he is Kumar, but that's when, like, I'm talking the seats behind home plate were just every gun you could imagine was sitting up there. And it was just like, at that point, it was just like, woof, like, that's pretty cool to see. So that would
Yeah.
be probably I'm trying to think if there's a hitter that I faced that just sticks out the top of my head, but I can't. I remember Kumar very vividly.
Yeah, a funny moment that like relates to that. You're probably familiar with Hunter Elliott from Ole Miss and then Brady
Hmm.
Tiger from Arkansas. So
Hmm.
watch them go head to head, and there was 8 pro scouts there with the guns, and they actually gave a show. Man, 29 strikeouts between the two of them, 1 hit, 2 walks, everything you could want. Right? these these two dudes come off though, man. Brady's reliever comes in. He walks the first 3 batters. They pull him. The next guy comes in, second pitch, spikes the ball. Guy comes in or whatever. So,
Oh,
like, I went from watching like the most electric, fiercest competition to like, and that's what you get sometimes. But
that's how baseball can be. Crazy turn of events.
right. But like some guys, because you mentioned Kumar, like some guys will remember they beat somebody before they became a little bit bigger than that. And they always want to hold that, that moment. They're like, I beat, so and so beforehand. But as far as high school, even though it wasn't as big as club, where did you go?
I went to Cleveland High School.
All right. And so I see there you threw 92.2 innings, allowing 44 hits and 10 earned runs, 142 strikeouts during your junior and senior seasons, averaging 14.8 strikeouts per 7 innings, which, had you ranked as the number 4 overall prospect, the number 2 right-handed pitcher in the state of Tennessee. So as far as high school ball, like I said, doesn't have everything that club, but what was your favorite part about it, or maybe a favorite moment or a game that really just sticks out from high school?
Yeah, so I'd say probably my favorite thing about it was I have some lifelong friends from that team, so it's just more than baseball for the high school aspect of it. But I'd say my favorite moment was just I have 2 of them, I'd say. So being a pitcher now is kind of funny, but in like one of our district tournaments, I had a walk off hit. So that was just something I clinged on to because I don't take pride in the hitter aspect of the game, but that's a good little story, backstory. And then I'm trying to think. So we had our middle school, I went to Cleveland Middle School, and Ocoee Middle School, everybody basically went to Walker Valley, which was one of our rivals in high school. And we didn't beat them one time from my years in middle school all the way to my senior year of high school. And we finally beat them one time. So that was probably just like the favorite moment, just to see everyone just like beat the guys you always grew up playing against. And because at that point we hadn't done it.
So, I mean, with you having that walk-off hit, you could pull like a Todd Peterson moment,
Exactly.
you go tell Tony V, like, man, I hit in high school. I dropped bombs. Like,
Yeah, that's the most legendary video ever.
I need to see you do it now. I need to see you pitch hit at some point this
Yeah.
season. Let's get it.
We got an agreement in place. If we get up by 17 in a game, I think I get to step in the box. So we got to make that happen.
17, that's a lot, but hey, like,
Yeah.
I mean, one of the few teams in the country I believe can do it. There's no doubt.
Yes,
So, club, high school, at what point do you start having colleges reach out to you?
So yeah, I actually committed relatively early. I committed going into my sophomore year of high school, and it was kind of for me. It was kind of just like a quick turn of events. It was like nothing, and then I went to one showcase, and then it was like within 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something, I had basically got a bunch of teams interested, and then I I got hurt and my velo went down, so some teams backed off, and Tennessee was actually one of the teams that backed off, and they were like, "We need to see this, this, and this from you." And I was down in Fort Myers, and once I finally got back up to the velocity that they were wanting to see, they pretty much offered me the next weekend, and I basically committed on site.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't blame them for backing off because you only got so many of these scholarships you can offer. You obviously know 11.7, you can only spread it around. And if you're hurt, if you ain't got it no more, hey, you gotta be cautious. But
Right.
my question for you would be, because you were recruited pre Tony V, and then obviously he's going to be the coach when you were coming in. Did that change anything for you, or it didn't matter? You wanted to go to Tennessee?
Yeah, no, it didn't matter that much to me, to be honest, because I loved the place, I loved the campus, and I thought if like at that point I knew they were going through a coaching change, and I was like, hey, if they get the right guy, which they did, this place could be pretty special. And that's what kind of drove me the right way, because I think a lot of times if you commit to coaching staffs, then you can be in some trouble if they take another job or vice versa. Like I think it's more important, in my opinion, to pick the school versus the coaching staff, because you
Yeah,
never know what's going to happen with them. And my
yeah.
little story is a little different too, because I actually despised Tennessee growing up. I was one of the only people in my family. Me and my dad, actually, I obviously made him move over to the other side, but we were Florida fans, like die hard
Oh
growing
no!
up. Yeah,
So the Gator Killer was a Florida fan.
yeah, that's the cool story about all that.
We're gonna get into that here in a minute, but like, oh man, I'm actually glad Randy's not here. He would have said, "Let's cut this episode." A funny thing, Camden, that anybody who follows the podcast knows, we have had somebody. We do all sports, but we mainly do baseball. We have had somebody from every team in the SEC but Florida and Vanderbilt, and that is strategic. We don't root for either of them. We hate both of them, and so like we have not tried, and we don't care. And so you tell me you're a Florida fan, kind of hurts a little bit, especially because if you look yourself up, people, like I said, you're kind of labeled the Gator Killer, so that kind of makes that awfully ironic.
Yeah, no, it's kind of crazy to think about, but as they'd say, it's not where you start, it's where you finish, right?
Absolutely. So, with you being from East Tennessee and then going to Tennessee, regardless of how you felt growing up, like, did you have nerves going to school, or was it because it was so close to home? It didn't feel too much of a big deal.
Yeah, I had a little bit of nerves, and I think that's normal. New environment, you feel a lot of pressure coming in to a new school, and being a freshman, like there's a lot of things like you want to prove that, hey, you can hang with these guys. The older guys are like looking at you, and like you kind of just want to prove yourself. So I think the nerves kind of like, I think it's all about how you control them though. if you put them in the right direction, I think it works in your favor. But if you let them affect you, then that's when kind of a lot of the mental aspect of everything kicks in negatively.
Absolutely. Well, apparently, you did just fine because, freshman season posted a 4-1 record with a 2.18 ERA, 43 strikeouts through 45 innings of work. You made 20 appearances, 5 starts, like talk to me the freshman year. You said you want to go in and make an impact, and you did make an immediate impact, so how did it feel to be a key member? Obviously it talks about the starts, but definitely out of the bullpen, just right out the gate.
Yeah, I thought it was a fun experience for sure. The nerves were obviously a lot. They were a lot when you're. So I remember that first outing. My knees were shaking so hard. I was like, I'm about to fall off the mound. And then as the freshman year was a cool one too, because Tennessee baseball hadn't been to a regional in however many years it was. It was a long time. So even though we came up short in the regional, just seeing the coolest part about that year was the older guys like the Garrett Stallings and a few other old guys that hadn't made it to anything, and they never thought that really they honestly never thought they would. And that was kind of cool to see, is like the regional for them like meant the world.
Yeah, no doubt. And, obviously that was the start of, your program just completely changing and continuing to just get bigger and bigger. But, in that season, since you brought it up and I was going to bring it up anyway, your first save came against Florida. And I was initially going to ask you how that felt, being a Tennessee guy, but now I got to ask you how it felt being a guy who was a Florida fan.
Yeah. I actually, so long story short, the day I committed to, I was actually remember walking into my parents' room and I was like, "Hey, Dad, like I think I'm about to commit to Tennessee." And they kind of stayed out of it for the most part. They let me make my own decisions. And like at the end of the day, I think if a parent's controlling what their kid's doing, they're not really going to be happy. So I think they did a great job of just letting me choose where I wanted to go. And I remember walking in there and he was like, I was like, "Hey, I think I'm going to commit to Tennessee." And he was like, "Are you sure?" And I was like, I mean, yeah. And I was like, all the question marks hit my head of like, what's he about to say? And it was like, well, Florida's supposed to call and offer you tomorrow. And I was just like, I'm sure. And then I ended up committing to Tennessee. And at that point I knew, like ever since that point, I've kind of had an edge just on Florida because they never really showed a lot of interest in me. So I kind of took that and just ran with it.
Well, and we're obviously going to get into your whole career there, but obviously, like you said, it's the best thing that could have happened because I mean, if you look at y'all's success, you're at the right place, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And you talk about that season, so Tony V gets the first 40-win season, and y'all get the postseason for the first time since 2005. So like you said, not only individual success, team success, like you said, the older guys, and would you expect it, especially with where Tennessee was before you got there? Could you ever expected to make a postseason run that first year?
I think it was a little bit of when you're around Coach V, everything kind of feeds off of his energy, and it's like it's hard to feel that you're not going to be competitive or at least good when he's the man in charge because everything he does is just ideally the coach you would as a player would dream to play for. So I think that kind of rubs off into all of us and gives us confidence. And once we got about halfway through the year, we were doing okay. And it was just kind of a thing of like, hey, we can do this. And it kind of just, we all just fed off the same energy.
So would you believe it if I told you that when he came on here, and he may talk to you guys about this, but when he came on here and did his episode, he talked about he used to not be that way. He used to be very timid, and that he had to be told that he needed to be more outgoing. He needed to be more confident. And so like you hear him say that, and you see him now, and you're like, really? But he wasn't always that way, and he actually had people that encouraged him to be more outgoing, like he is now. So it's kind of wild, really. But I mean, obviously, it's worked out for the best. And he had mentors along the way, obviously, that were big time that got him here, and now he's doing his own thing. But 2020, not much to talk about. You had injury, COVID, just one of those years to forget. But getting into the next year, 2021, you made a career high 23 appearances. You started 3 times. Went 4-1 again. 2.82 ERA, 2 saves in 51 innings. Had 46 strikeouts. So let's talk about that team. We sit here and talk about the culture shift. You're coming off COVID. The year before that, though, you make the postseason. Let's talk about like how y'all developed that swagger into being the powerhouses you are. Like how did your team, like, I don't know, kind of adopt that personality? Did it just kind of like it just happened game to game, or how'd that all fall together?
Yeah, so I think that also kind of feeds off of V, and he's really good at just, as long as it's directed in the right direction and not the wrong, of just being yourself and let everyone show their emotions, let everyone kind of just be themselves without coming off like as not necessarily cocky, but just disrespecting the game, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of feeds off of that. And then the COVID year, actually, I think 2021 was kind of just a continuing of the 2020 season, because we started off that year with a bang, going down to Red Rock and beating number 1 Texas Tech at the time. And we were just on a roll there. And then a lot of the team transferred over from that year to the 21 year.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going in the 2021 year, kind of like last year, and it was like, hey, we got a chance to be really, really good.
Yeah, when you look at all the pieces that came in, like the first Tennessee guys we had on were Chad Dallas, Connor Pavoloni, and Liam Spence, and they 2 out of 3 of them were transferred in, and they were a part of a whole bunch of pieces that were just brought into a team that already had a good foundation. And so it was like this just perfect storm that was made. And and to your point about like Tony V letting y'all be y'all, he came on here and surprisingly, he said he wasn't a fan of the fur coat, but he let y'all do y'all. And so it's interesting. Everybody wants to blame Tony for everything that goes on with Tennessee baseball, but he said it himself. He's like, I'm gonna let my guys be them as long as they don't do anything drastic. Mike Honcho might have did a little bit too much, but hey, I loved it. I'm here for it, but not everybody is. But it's cool seeing y'all have that. Y'all make baseball fun, man. Like and it's a I always do the hashtag grow the game when I'm doing my posts and everything, because I don't think people do appreciate baseball for what it is. And Tennessee, among a few other teams, really the last couple of years have made baseball fun, made it exciting with the celebrations. And for y'all, it's not just home runs, but the pitching is electric, as as you're one of them. Like, I mean, it's everything about it. And so, starting with that 2021 year and what y'all did, so obviously the season's amazing. Let's talk about the regionals, right? So when we're talking about, the swagger, I want to know from your perspective, as a pitcher watching, Drew Gilbert's walk-off. Like, I've watched the TikTok of it. I'm not even a TikTok person. Like, I hate it. I've watched that TikTok 1 million times of him walking it off. Like, how cool, though, was it for you right there in person?
Oh yeah, that moment never gets old. I can watch it on repeat all day long, and I still get chills every time from it. Just in person, that I remember sitting there, and it was like almost like you didn't know what to do. Like, as soon as it happened, but it was a weird thing too, because also everyone like felt the buildup of it about to happen, and like everyone was like, I remember all of us talking in the dugout like, hey, we're about to walk this off right here, and like everyone was just talking and talking, and then it happened, and you just like almost blacked out. Like, you just started, like, I don't even remember what I did. I just remember running around, like everyone's yelling. V's down there at the fence in the right field, headbutting the cage. It was crazy. Like everything. Everything.
That's what I need. I need a camera of like every direction of everybody to see what they were doing, because I'm sure everybody was doing their own thing, just going electric.
That year also, we had like, I remember we walked off LSU twice in the same day.
Yeah, I'm an LSU fan. Don't forget that, Camden. Don't do that.
That's why I hesitated right there. I was like, oh, this one's gonna hurt a little bit.
No, well, we've done it. We've done it with every Tennessee guy we've come on here, and honestly, like, it's funny when we have the LSU guys on here. I'll use my boy Devin Fontenot as an example. you can tell the bitter taste in your mouth when you bring up Tennessee. And so Tennessee guys love talking LSU. LSU guys do not like talking Tennessee at all. But
Understandable. Yeah,
let's go ahead.
it's a good thing to have though, because it's like that inner, just that little like the little like chippiness of it makes the game better. It really does.
Right. And so let's get into that. That super regionals, y'all had taken care of business in the regular season. It's now the postseason, and LSU is this prestigious team. It is Paul Mainieri's last year. Just in the back of y'all's mind, obviously y'all aren't afraid of anything at this point, but does the idea that it is LSU, they're going to be looking for revenge. They do have the prestige, and it is their coach's last ride. Was there any thought that like, hey, this team is going to be extremely tough to get by?
Oh yeah, there was always I guess it comes down to one of those things of like respect your opponent, but don't give them too much respect. Mm-hmm. And because I remember there was a little bit of chatter, to be totally honest, of like, we've already beat this team 3 times. Now we got to beat them 5 to go. Mm-hmm. Like we're like 5 times in a year. Like I don't care who it is. It's hard to beat a team 5 times in 1 year.
Right.
And so there was always that little bit of, oh, this is Coach Mainieri's last year. They're a really good team. We've already beat them 3 times. Like we have to beat them 5 now, 2 more times. And there was a little bit of that talking going on, but at the end of the day, we believed in ourselves and just kind of let our plan do the talking.
Well, and speaking of believing in y'all, obviously packed out Lindsey Nelson, even got more fans outside than you do. So, as a player, man, what does that mean just to have like all those fans there inside out, have that atmosphere? Like, I mean, it's got to make the adrenaline even more.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. The chills and the nerves all at the same time kind of feed off each other, and you just sit there and you're just like, especially for, I consider myself an old guy now, but especially for me, because my first year there wasn't that many people in the stands. Mm-hmm. So now to see it packed out on midweeks and every single game is just sold out, and we're having to add seats to fit people in the stadium is really surreal to see.
Yeah, that was one of the things that Randy had brought up in our episode with Vitello. He talked about his dad mentioned in an article about the first time he came and watched Tony coach and how little of a crowd there was. Like literally you could count the people that were in the stadium. But that's a shout out to y'all and everything you did, because like I said, I was sitting there talking about how, y'all made baseball fun and exciting. And that's the thing, right? Y'all are the love or hate team, right? Either people love you or hate you, but no matter what, people are going to tune in, and that's the best part. And so with LSU, it's kind of interesting dynamic because they've always kind of fell in that same category. I know that as a fan, when you got 6 national championships, most people, don't want you to win. And so here you got Tennessee, this team that, kind of has got this villainous role to them. You got LSU. Well, nobody wants to see them win again. And so it's no matter what, they were getting one of them. But, y'all punched the ticket to Omaha. As Randy said, y'all made Paul cry. Man, shame. Y'all gonna do that to my guy. But you punch your ticket. Like, how surreal was it, man? Like, you're going to Omaha.
Yeah, it was very surreal. It was just one of those it was one of those moments where it's like we did it, but like we felt like we deserved it too. So it wasn't just like oh, how did we do it? It was like, yeah, we did it. And then that that party on the field, the dog pile and everything it was just all surreal, walking around the field after winning and just high-fiving all the fans.
Since you came, were you coming from the bullpen?
I'm trying to think. No, I pitched the inning right before I pitched the 8th inning.
Yeah, because we talk about dog piles with players all the time from different teams, and you never want to be on the bottom. And any of the guys that say they come from the bullpen, it's the best. They're like, we get to be there dead last. We just land on top.
Right. Yeah, I do remember. I have pictures of. I guess I was somewhat on the bottom, and I had a scar on my eye from just like the hat, my face being slammed in, and the hat was rubbing my face raw, and I had a scar.
Yeah, Logan Tanner and Landon Sims came on here and talked about when they won it all this same year that we're talking about. They, Logan and Landon thought they were going to die on the bottom. Like they were like, literally, I had to get to the point where they were like screaming, "Get off!"
Exactly.
You're gonna get your skull crushed in.
Coach V in one of his interviews or something along the lines of, Yeah, I'm glad they call me Bones. That's my nickname. And they said I'm glad Bones didn't get the final out, or we might not have had him eligible to pitch.
No doubt. So, I was in Omaha. I watched, unfortunately, it didn't go well. But for you personally, you did have a good outing against Texas. Not even allowing a hit in relief. And so just getting to be on that stage, obviously, instead of just talking about how it just ended badly for the team, just for you individually to go out there, and Omaha and pitch, a great, inning and 2/3 against Texas. What was that like?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And I think it's like a hopefully I'll hopefully do it again. But it's one of those moments that not a lot of people can say they've done as an athlete. So it's one of those you just kind of take like pride in, I guess, of just like that was a pretty cool experience. And I remember trying to think of I remember just basically being out there and like, yeah, it's a bigger stage, but it's the same game. It's the
Hmm.
same game. You're still facing the same teams you faced pretty majority of the whole year. And it's not anything different, just a bigger stage. But at the end of the day, the game's the same. So you don't want to make it way bigger than it is, or that's when people tend to struggle.
Well, I think it's bigger than it is because I was down there by Chad and Connor when they were warming up before Chad had pitched in game one. And usually I can get their attention. And they were so laser focused, I couldn't, because Pavs, he messaged me after and he goes, "Was that you yelling at me?" And I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Man," he goes, "My bad." He's like, "I had tunnel vision." And like I watched them two dudes a bunch of times. I'd never seen them so locked in. So there is a little something extra.
Yeah, I think it goes both ways because I think that was honestly one of our downfalls is we were so tense that we didn't enjoy the moment as much as we should have and just play ball. We were so focused on be perfect or like don't do anything wrong, and that's what kind of led to it's a big factor in how we ended up finishing that season.
Well, especially in the hitting aspect. And, we've had the guys on here, so I'm not saying anything that they don't admit themselves. I mean, if you use Cheese, for example, one of the things we joke about with him was he had the most run support in all of college baseball as a starter. Like it was easy for him. But then you go to Omaha and he gives you 5 scoreless innings, and Tennessee can't, get anything on the board, which is just not like them. And so, yeah, you could tell at the plate, even especially that the guys were very wound tight and, um, and it gets that way, but getting to the next season, y'all have a lot to build on, right? But the thing is, y'all are no longer the hunter. Y'all are the hunted. Everybody knows who y'all are. Y'all have that swagger that we talk about this about you. So, like for you, what is it like? Did you enjoy going from being more of an underdog team to the team that people kind of hated?
Yeah, I feel like it's different. I feel like it's a little different just on how you view it, just because at when you're technically the underdog, like you're not very to be honest, like when I first hear it, like we didn't expect to beat all the teams that we should have. And it was just like one of those things. It's like now, like we believe that we should win all the time. And it's like we have that confidence and that just kind of swagger, I guess you can call it that. It's like we want to have that target on our back because like it means something to us because it means like, hey, people are trying to come after you, but you better not get them because you better not let them get you because you're gonna get caught. So it's one of those things of just like, you want us, come on. And that's what
Yeah.
the kind of the approach we take.
Well, because it was interesting because when Evan came back on with Drew Beam, I had listened to his original episode and he talked about how much he liked the underdog role. And so I flipped it on him and I said, "Man, I went back and listened. I said, you really said you enjoyed being the underdog, but talking to you lately, you really enjoy this whole villain thing." And he was like, "Yeah," he's like, "I like them both." He goes, "But yeah, I do like being the one that everyone's after." And I mean, that obviously means you're at the top if that's the case. So
Right.
it's not a bad place to be in. But speaking of this hate, going back to the Gators, and this is one of the things where it references you is the Gator killer. You tossed 4 1/3 shutout innings and recorded 3 strikeouts in the win over Florida. And then started the SEC tournament championship game against Florida and was credited with your 7th win of the season, throwing 5 shutout innings. So, like that chip on the shoulder that you talked about, it's clear, Camden, because I mean, against them, you don't allow anything.
Yeah, that's a I remember that SEC championship game, and just like everyone was like, because we didn't even know who we were starting, because we had, how the SC tournament is, you never, like, you use so many arms, it's like who's just left basically. And fortunately last year we had a lot of quality arms, so it was like we didn't run into that problem too often. But I remember just texting, I was just like, please don't overthink this, please don't overthink this, just give me the ball. And I eventually just sent via text saying give me the ball, and it worked, and I'm fortunate of that.
With the kind of guy he is, I think he would appreciate that. Like,
Oh yeah,
knowing that you're ready, let's go.
he kind of loves that type of stuff.
So with all the fun that y'all had that season, I gotta ask, and I was at two of these four. What was a more fun sweep? At Vandy, at Ole Miss, at Mississippi State, or at Florida? I was at the obviously because I live in North Mississippi. I was at Ole Miss and Mississippi State. The famous words of Dylan DeLucia, who is a guest of this show, they overlooked you guys. It wouldn't happen happen again. I was like, how do you overlook number 5 coming to your house? But it's funny. And then Mississippi State didn't overlook y'all. They knew what it was, and they were on a bad year. But between those 4 teams, obviously Vandy's a rival, Florida's a rival, and then Ole Miss and Mississippi State having the stadiums they do, big crowds. What was the most fun sweep for you?
Oof. They each have their own little flavor, but I would say for me, I think it's hard to go against Florida for me, just because of everything built up and how I grew up and all these different aspects. But as the team, like I think that Ole Miss was everyone's consensus number 1, because at that point you beat the number 1 team and just came in and kind of like took over that. I mean, from game 1 we took over that villain role, and I remember Gilbert was talking to the fans and behind home plate, and just like they were all yelling at him in the dugout, like it was crazy. Like, and then we just all just like kind of fed off of that, and we're like, we're here, let's go.
So, like, I'm an Ole Miss season ticket holder. Obviously, I'm an LSU fan, but when I go to all these games, I wear different apparel of different teams, because as long as they're not playing LSU, I root for folks. And so at the Ole Miss game, Hayden Leatherwood from Ole Miss said, did my eyes deceive me, or did I see you sitting over there with the Tennessee crowd wearing Tennessee? I said, you did. And I said, I knew what I was doing. I said, no offense, Hayden, but I knew how that series was going to go, my guy. And I said, I was putting myself in the right position. So I was sitting over there with the Russells and them. And sure enough, fans were leaving. Chase Burns came on here and talked about it. They were leaving by the 4th inning. Like, y'all had them rolling out. I mean, it was an absolute beatdown.
Yeah, I remember being in the dugout on Sunday, and the fans are asking us to take it easy on them, just let them get 1 win, and like hearing that stuff just makes you kind of laugh. But they were, it's a good weekend when you're on the road and you hear the home fans talking bad about their team. And that's when it's a good weekend.
But talking to those guys, obviously they needed that. They took multiple punches in the mouth, and they would obviously eventually become national championship. But they needed a whooping like that, because coming in there, they'll tell you themselves they had developed an arrogance where they thought, especially having that number 1 ranking against them, and then y'all come in there and do that, and it's like, okay, we got work to do. Right. So it was good for them. But of all the places you pitch, I talk about what was your favorite sweep, and it doesn't even just have to necessarily be them, one of those 4. What was the hardest, environment for you to pitch in for an away game?
Oof. The most, for me, the low key, the hardest pitch to pitch is like Kentucky, because there's no one there.
Those poor guys.
Yeah, and turns out we ended up losing the series of that weekend. We lost to them and Notre Dame. Those are the 2 people that took a series from us. And
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Kentucky was the only one in the regular season.
Yeah, so it's kind of ironic to say that, but yeah, I would say Kentucky last year. I'm trying to think if there was any like specific ones that kind of stood out to me. I didn't pitch very good at Mississippi State or Ole Miss, so that one I'd like to forget about those 2 weekends.
I haven't looked at y'all's schedule entirely this year, but do y'all by chance go to Texas A&M?
I I'm not very familiar with it either,
Yeah,
but I know
I know y'all go to
too.
LSU in Arkansas, but I was wondering,
Yeah,
and the reason I asked is because talking to numerous players, Texas A&M, they say for a pitcher is a tough environment. They say them fans are pretty ruthless.
right. Yeah, I remember. I don't think we do because we played there 2 years ago, and or my no, yeah, we played there 2 years ago, and so I'm sure we wouldn't go back there again already this soon.
I got
But
you.
that I remember Blade Tidwell was pitching though, and they got up to like ball seven, and that place was rocking.
Yeah. Uh, y'all come up short in super regionals, like you said. If Randy was here, he was, documented on the show saying numerous times he literally said the only team going into postseason. So this is before we even knew how it was going to lay out. He said the only team I don't want to play is Notre Dame. And we had Jack Brannigan on. This was a team that had so many veterans. They had just played Mississippi State the season before in the Super Regionals at the largest crowd they'd ever had, at Duty Noble. And so this was a team that was prepared and wouldn't be, scared of playing you guys. Probably the only team that would honestly admit not being scared of playing you guys in your house. And so, he said that's the team he didn't want. I arrogantly was like, man, I'm not studying Notre Dame. Tennessee is going to take care of business. And obviously he ended up being right about his worries. I was wrong. So with y'all dominating all year, but then ending like that, not even making it to Omaha, like you said, you did the year before, how bad a taste did it leave in the mouth, just knowing really, let's keep it real. Like, I understand that y'all didn't win, but anybody who doesn't say that y'all were the best team is lying to themselves.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Yeah, that was probably one of the worst like feelings I've went through. I remember not even being able to look at social media for a week or two. I didn't want to follow baseball. I didn't care who won. I didn't care about anything because it just rubbed like this, made you just have this sick feeling in your stomach of like, that should be us. And it, I don't remember, I don't know how often a team has not made it to Omaha and had single digit losses in a season.
Well,
So
do you believe in superstition? Because I do, because the number one team hasn't made it
mhm.
to Omaha since 1999 is a real thing. I actually, I told you, I messaged with Chase Dolander all the time. I told that man, you better make sure y'all are number two when this season ends. Like, and he goes, no doubt, we'll throw the last series of the year and get swept if we got to.
Yeah, no, that's funny you bring that up because I remember it was a thing of like we were talking about it, but it was like more of like we're gonna be the ones to break this like little curse. We're gonna be the ones to do it. And sure enough, we did not do it.
Because you played them the year before. Tell me, was Arkansas not the best team the year before? Like, I mean, undoubtedly, y'all know, because they were the only team that could really beat y'all that year too. And I mean, they were absolutely electric. And then they fell short to NC State. It's the weirdest thing how, man, you could be the best team all year and then not even make it to Omaha. So yeah, finish number two this upcoming season. It's actually funny. They asked us over at D1 and Spitting Seeds, they asked a lot of the big baseball podcasts, to do their rankings. And so they asked me and Randy to do them together. And so we both showed each other our rankings, and he had LSU at 1 and I had Tennessee at 1. And he goes, you ain't got LSU at 1? I said, I want that number 1. He goes, neither do I. I was like, well, too bad you got it. We did that. And so anyway, I ended up getting my way. When we turned them in, Tennessee was that number 1. But that's just preseason, so it's all
Right.
good.
Right.
So, not all is lost last year. Obviously, y'all do what y'all do on the field, but you get your bachelor's in sports management. You even accepted a full-time job at Knoxville's American Accessories International. So, in your mind, was baseball completely done?
Yeah, I went through a tough stretch over like right after the season. And then I think honestly, just the way the season ended could have played a part in that. And I was just like, am I done? Like all these questions pop in your head, and then it leads to, am I making the right decision? And then it leads to what decision is even right? And like all these different thoughts combine into your head, and your head starts going in circles. And so I accepted a job, and I had really had no intention of playing baseball. And we just somehow things came about, and was basically started talking to Coach V and a bunch of different coaches along the way of just like, is this a possibility if I were to come back? Like, what would happen? Like, is it even possible? And then we kind of found ways to make things work. And now I'm working and playing. So it's a lot, but it's surely an experience for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you even said when we were talking yesterday. So, are you back in school as well, like doing
Yeah.
classes? So you're working, playing baseball, and doing school.
Yeah.
I
It's a
mean,
it's a it's a packed day all the time, but it's pretty rewarding in the end because you feel like you've completed a lot that day or whatever it may be, your task, and it really makes you grow up really fast.
yeah, no doubt. I mean, I couldn't handle those three. I can't believe you're doing all three because when you had said you were doing classes, I was like, well, he's already got his degree. So with that, what are you trying to achieve now academically on top of what you already got?
Yeah, so now I'm just taking basically classes that kind of gain more knowledge about the job and just like retail classes and stuff like and different classes like that that I could use that knowledge to like kind of insert into the day-to-day activities that I do or the projects or different things like that. And
Yes.
I'm not going for I mean if I think we're at the point now if a master's is like attainable or
Mhm.
reachable that like we'll get it, but if it's I'm not gonna go out of my way to get that.
Yeah, usually you need more than a year probably to
Yeah,
get that. And so with this being
exactly.
the last year, so obviously you decide to come back. We talk about the arms that you got, and we talk about Dolander, Burns, Beam, Halverson, Kirby. I mean, I could just keep going. And when you add yourself into that mix, like I mean, you really have to feel like, and obviously y'all got the bats to go with it, but I mean, when I can't not focus on the arms that y'all got coming back. When you got pitcher of the year and freshman of the year, and then doing what you're doing out of the bullpen, and you got all these guys, like it's hard not to think that's not the focal point. And so with that, plus what y'all got, coming back and what y'all got through the transfer portal, recruiting, you know, um, how excited are you that since you are doing this last ride to have what y'all have and what this season's got in store?
Yeah, I'm really excited. The I think that it's really different this year because we have more like transfers or young guys coming in than we have people that have been here for a while. So it's like blending everyone together and it's kind of interesting to see how everyone goes, but I think we're gonna be all right.
I mean, does it get more of an interesting blend than last year? You had Dolander come in who was against y'all, and it literally had Drew Gilbert bat flip on them, and then their teammates, which he said, Drew let him know about that for like the whole fall and spring leading into. He said every time I'd see him, he'd say he'd bring it up, and I was like, every time he said every time.
Every
So
time.
if the two of them can blend together, anybody can come in and blend together.
Exactly. Yeah, it's kind of cool to see everyone come together and it's kind of cool. The coolest part from my perspective is seeing everyone kind of like you don't like there's not a certain like swagger attitude that everyone has, but like it kind of like everyone kind of has their own. And once they see how people use theirs, they kind of develop their own little attitude and swagger. And then it's kind of cool to see how even the younger guys develop that and just like grow confidence in themselves.
Yeah. So one of the things when we talk about this swagger, the rule that the NCAA passed down because they're no fun, no on field props. Does that really affect y'all? Because all you got to do is just wait till you get to the dugout, right? Like
Right,
you
right.
still go with the hat and the coat. Of course, I hope y'all got a new coat because according to all your guys and especially coach, that thing was starting to have a must to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they said it was starting to get tough. Trey said, so many dudes sweating in it, like it's rough.
Yeah, I think got pretty nasty towards the end of the year to say the least.
So, obviously I was just talking about y'all and LSU, got all the hype already. Anybody who's already paying attention to college baseball, which there's a lot of people who are excited about college baseball, even with football going on, are picking you two guys or y'all two teams to go to Omaha. So what I really look forward to, and we're going to be doing a lot of interviews and doing a lot of things down in Baton Rouge. So at the start of April. So I really look forward to that series. But y'all also have Arkansas, on deck on the road with Baum Walker. So y'all got some exciting series coming up. But SEC, it's going to be a grind as always. I know you saw the recruiting rankings, man. Top 4 in the nation were all in the SEC. 6 of 8 were from the SEC. And you got to play, I think, just about every team that was on there. So it's not going to get any easier, and y'all are still going to have a target on you.
Yeah, of course. I think we're looking forward to it, to say the least, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't expect anything less from you guys. But, with that, man, let's play a game. It's called This or That. Basically, I'll give you 2 options. You pick one or the other. You can't say neither, and you can't say both. All right. All right. So what's better, Kirby's mustache or Camden's hair flow?
My hair flow.
All right. I was hoping you'd say that so I can then lead to this. Before Jordan Beck cut it off, who had better hair flow, you or Jordan?
Oof. I'd say me, just because I don't consider mine a mullet.
It's sure, and it's one of those things you don't realize until he takes his hat off, and you're like, it is a mullet. What were your first thoughts when you saw pictures of him with his hair cut off?
I haven't even seen it with his hair off. I've just seen the skull cap.
Man, it's awkward. Like it's like that. Is that the same guy? Or like you kind of have to think twice about it.
I bet his hat doesn't. I swear he used to let his hat fall off on purpose just so I could let his hair flow when he was running to catch a fly ball.
Well, it's funny until we had Chase Burns on here. I had never seen Chase without his hat on, and so a question that was asked to me by a buddy of mine. He was like, "Why is his hat always like won't stay on his head, having trouble, whatever?" And then I seen all that hair he had, and I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, now we know."
Exactly.
So I don't know how much you've been paying attention. Some guys watch MLB, some don't. But like for you, what's more impressive? Judge hitting 61 home runs last night, or Pujols getting to 700?
Oof. Yeah, that one's tough because I feel like in their own way, like hitting 61 in a season isn't very often, but also 700 is like a milestone. Mm-hmm. That's just not like a one season type thing. So I would have to go with the 700 because that proves the like legacy of everything and the longevity.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, they're both awesome. And, it's kind of funny. I was listening to them talk about it on the radio today, and they've been talking about it over the past week. They're talking about how these updates, whether it was Pujols before he hit 700 or Judge now, how they're breaking into like football games to show. And they're like, man, why are they breaking into football with baseball? And it's like, I don't think that, your people who aren't big baseball fans understand how monumental these things are. 61 just doesn't happen every year. 700 just doesn't happen every year. And so it's a big deal. And for a guy like me who likes both sports, I'm all for it. Break in. Let me see it. Especially if you happen to break in and he hits, if he breaks in tonight and hits 62, man, I want to see it. Like, let's go.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So, I don't know if you do either of these, but most of your teammates do. Usually it's all over Instagram, but you don't have any of these. But if you had to choose one, hunting or fishing, which one is it?
Fishing. And I would say neither if I could choose neither.
Aha, so you're not a country boy like the rest of them, huh?
Nah, I've never actually been hunting, so that one's just an easy no. And then fishing's tough for me because I'm not very good on the whole patience aspect of everything. So if I'm not catching anything in 10 minutes, I'm out.
Yeah, I got you. I've actually never been hunting myself. I actually do love fishing, but no, that's a surprise. Most of your teammates, man, they get all into it. I see the pictures, but that explains why I see no pictures of you doing it. So with that, are you a beach or a lake guy if you're going to go out on one?
Oof, I would tend more to the lake. I like the beach, but I I like the beach just for like going on vacation and like that whole aspect of it. But I feel like the lake, I feel like I find more things I enjoy to do on the lake.
It's not only just more things you enjoy. You don't have to deal with the sand, man. That's the problem with the beach. You got to get all the sand out. Like it's a pain.
It's also not miserably hot majority of the time.
Absolutely. So if you could go to any concert or any sporting event, what would you pick? Concert or sporting event?
Oof. I would. I'd have to go. I'd have to choose a Super Bowl.
You said, well, I was going to get you to say sporting event, and then I was going to ask you which one, but now you've answered Super Bowl. Who's your team? Like, who do you want to see there?
The Bucks are my team. The Tampa Bay Bucks are my team.
Oh man.
Yeah, I got a little. So, like I said, my grandparents actually live in Florida. They live in Orlando, and they've been season ticket holders for probably before I was born, and so I kind of followed them with that, and then I just ended up a Tampa Bay fan. I didn't really choose. I just kind of stuck with what my family liked.
That hurts. That might hurt just as bad as the Florida thing. Before the sun dropped and the Saints jersey was behind me. I grew up hating the Cowboys more than any other team. Well, since Tom Brady has came to Tampa, as a Saints fan, I probably hate them more than anybody. I can't stand Tom Brady. I can't even stand that my boy Leonard Fournette's on the team. And then that whole little scuffle that happened between Evans and Lattimore the other week. I can't stand that.
Mike Evans is my guy. So I love every time I would have.
Hold on. Okay, since you're gonna say that, all right. So they brought up a stat: 168 snaps. Lattimore and Evans have been lined up against each other. Evans only has 5 catches, and that's because Lattimore is Evans' daddy, and that's why for the third time. You do realize your boy, every time he's hit Lattimore, it's been from behind. I just want to point that out,
But if you actually look at all the there's one where Lattimore shoves him after the play and they're face to face and Mike Evans punches him in the face and knocks his helmet off.
I mean, so he's got like 7 inches on him. He should be able to swing on him.
Well, he does. Yeah, he does. I'll tell you that he does.
But I'm a little disappointed, man. Camden, you were my guy up until this. Now adding the Florida and the Tampa Bay, I don't care who brought it on you. Nah, so we'll really see now, because if you answer this next question wrong, I don't know. This upcoming season, what would you prefer more? Beat LSU at the box or Arkansas at Baum Walker?
I would, if I have to choose, I would say beat Arkansas at Baum Walker, because my freshman year we were not able to do so. So that's something that I think we're all kind of looking forward to and excited that's a possibility.
Yeah, no, that was the answer I would expect because of the history, and that's what we figured. But, because there is so much hype being put around y'all and LSU, I didn't know if that one might be one that y'all have already been talking about because everybody else is. So we talk about the villain role. We talk about the underdog thing. Would you rather be the hero or would you rather be the villain?
Tell you what, after these last few years, the villain role's been kind of it's been fun to say the least. It's a pretty cool thing to where no matter if the team loves, like no matter if the different fans love you or hate you, they're still watching because it's like they want to see how you do. And that's kind of a cool thing to see is like last year, for example, even if you were a fan of another school, you would watch your team play and then you'd probably go and check and see what did Tennessee do. And that was a pretty cool thing to see of like just being a part of that type of team that has that kind of impact on the sport.
Yeah, like I said, we've had like 15 of y'all on, and I think the only ones that said hero are, I know Sean Hunley said it in his first episode with Evan Russell, and I feel like was it Drew Beam maybe? I don't think Drew Beam he don't like being disliked.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
All right. Would you rather have massive success on accident or modest success on purpose?
Oof.
I'll put it to you this way. This is the way we rephrase it sometimes. Would you rather be given, especially since you're a baseball player, would you rather just be given $100 million by someone no strings attached, or would you rather earn $20 million playing baseball?
I think that I think oh for me I'd take the $100 million. It'd be hard for me to turn that down, but I think it also could lead into like if something happens on accident, like it still happens. So that's kind of the way I looked at it.
Yeah, no doubt. And then this will be the last question. It's actually a question that we retired this season, but since we asked all your teammates in the previous seasons, I'm curious to your answer. And so the question is, would you rather do 5 years in prison or 10 years in a coma?
Oof. Um, I would probably choose 10 years in a coma. I do not want to go to prison. 5 years seems like it would seem like 10 years in prison.
It's definitely a no-win situation.
Yeah.
I think of it when I put myself in you guys' shoes. You'll be in your 30s when you come out of the coma. So while it seems like the easy idea, like I don't know, man, a lot of times pass, but yeah, there's no win in that, and
No.
a lot of people don't want that prison life. So
Right.
all right, well, that's enough of the hot seat, Camden. With that, is there anything you want to plug or promote before you get out of here?
Yeah, just thank you for having me on here. It's a pleasure. You do a great job. So thank you for the opportunity to be on here and do this.
Yeah, man, no problem. Well, for those of you who want to follow Camden, man, you can go to IG. It's Camden Sewell. It's just his name. It's very simple. If you want to follow the Vols, Vol_baseball on Instagram. Big things coming up this season. Like we said, the expectation is championship or bust. But once again, man, Camden, we want to thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so if you like hearing Camden's story or you just like hearing Average Joes talk X's and O's, please like and share the podcast on Facebook, retweet us on Twitter, listen and subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and Anchor. Comments, ratings, and feedback is always welcome. We will see everyone back next week for episode 18. We'll be talking Tennessee soccer with Mackenzie George. But in the meantime, remember, strong body, sharp minds, grit and grind all the time. We're out.